All right, Bang Bang. Today is Tuesday, November 12th, Chicago Dog Walk. That means Chief is back. I missed you last week, man. Tim
I
Fell
know you guys
Tuesday.
did a good job. That was on our list, the Bohemian Grove. So I'm glad you guys got to that one. And Coley, birds of a feather. So he's a crazy brain just like me. So I'm glad he was there to fill in.
Anything to add to that one? Was there anything that you were like, well, here's also like, don't forget about this?
Well, just the fact that I got DMs from this kid whose dad was supposedly on the board and had a list of like all the names who had ever been involved. So we might have to do a follow up and like really
Holy
track
shit, like
it.
some celebs and shit?
Oh, the list. I mean, I was like, hey, yeah. He's like, hey, I have like this list and like these photocopies of these documents from the Bohemian Grove. Are you interested in seeing them? I'm like, fuck yeah, I am. So he's like, all right, hold on. And he sent me, I want to say it was like 78 DMs.
Holy
of like
fuck.
him taking pictures of these documents and like sending them over. So
Could he get us in?
I don't think he can get us in, but he knows who's been in, and he's like got maps of the area and like where they do certain things. It was a wild.
Really?
I haven't even gone through them all.
Damn.
I need like to sit down and like go through all these documents.
Can you give us a little tease? Just give us one name who you saw on there.
I mean, the Clintons might be on there.
Okay.
So think about
All
it.
right.
Not Hillary because no women allowed, but but Bill was on the list.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So we'll definitely do a follow up on that. Today we are getting into a topic we've talked about before, but this is a little bit different spin on it that has to do with John F. Kennedy.
Yeah. So we're coming up on the the 56th anniversary of the assassination. So November, this is when Discovery Channel, History Channel, all those shows start really hitting you heavy with the Kennedy conspiracy documentaries, and then also just things about the assassination itself.
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic, like because I just saw The Irishman on Sunday, and listen, it comes out on Netflix, I think Black Wednesday, but it is very Kennedy. It's not. I shouldn't say very Kennedy heavy, but it plays a focal point in the storyline. So
Okay.
it's kind of funny. So there's going to be a little bit of intertwining. I guess it's a good time to be talking about Kennedy again. I guess I'll say.
Yeah, every November, and I'm excited to watch that movie as well. And there's definitely pretty hard links between the mafia, the Kennedys, the CIA, the FBI, like that. What a wild time to be alive with all of those things intertwined.
And I think today is we're getting into him and the CIA, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Kennedy, JFK, and the CIA, because there was a major documents dump. So there was a lawsuit in 1992, Freedom of Information Act, to release all these Kennedy-related documents 25 years later. So that was 2017. And then, long story short, we can get into that a little bit later, not all the documents were released. And even though they were studied, now there's not enough things were put out there that kind of points a finger in any particular direction. But it was odd that all of the documents seemingly redacted were related to the CIA and the FBI. So that's kind of where we are, because there's always been like that lingering theory of who's really behind the assassination. And a lot of people seem to think it was the CIA.
Really? So last time we did the magic bullet theory, I believe,
Yep.
where we kind of what kind of got disproved through that, or what's kind of the main refresh us on what the main point of that is.
Sure, that was really kind of almost debunking the magic bullet theory, which is something put out by the Warren Commission back in 1964, I believe that came out, that said like this bullet went down and zigzagged and this and that. So it created all these wounds with one bullet. And in addition, like he was also fired off the final kill shot, like the famous back and to the left. And we talked about maybe it was a Secret Service agent who was standing up, car accelerated, he falls backwards and accidentally pulls the trigger from basically, 12 feet behind Kennedy, and that was actually who killed him. And then there was a cover-up to kind of like protect that guy's identity and the story and all of that.
Okay, so what's going on with the CIA now? Like, what are we finding now that kind of piqued your interest to want to talk about this again?
Well, there's this one guy who, his name is David Perry, and he's like the Kennedy assassination guy. So he's been cited as a source for PBS, History Channel. Like he's always interviewed various books. I think he was talked about or consulted on the Oliver Stone JFK movie. He's just the guy who's known for knowing everything. He's from Dallas. He did like a deep dive on all the documents, and he's not like I would say a headline grabbing kind of guy. He's not a sex and sizzle. He's not really a conspiracy theory guy. he does say that the one that he can't disprove is the CIA's involvement.
Oh.
So that is what kind of read that article, and it's topical because it's November. That kind of got me started.
So this guy, there's no reason for this guy to say it unless if he really believed it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because he doesn't, there's all kinds of like, it was Castro, and he's like, I don't really think it was Castro. Oh, it was the Russians. I don't really think it was the Russians. Oh, it was the mafia. I don't think it was the mafia. Like, he's kind of, he's like, I don't, he doesn't go into like the grassy knoll type things and who the shooters were, but he goes looking more so to debunk these different conspiracies, and he just is like, hey, I can't, even with all my information, all my knowledge, I can't rule out the CIA's involvement.
Okay, so what have you found about this now?
So kind of going down that line of thinking, it was like, well, why would the CIA want to do it? Like, what was their motive to kill the president? And it was pretty clear. So JFK had issued a directive in a memo that he fucking hated the CIA and the Central Intelligence Agency. And at that time, it hadn't been around that long. CIA was not a thing the way we know it now prior to World War II. So it was a relatively new agency, and he felt that they had gotten way too much power, and he issued a directive to, and the quote is allegedly, that he wanted to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the wind. Like, he just wanted to get rid of the CIA, and that he felt that way because they had so many like failed things where they put him in tough spots, where there was the Bay of Pigs. Like, they told him that they were going to have this covert operation led by Cuban people who are, kind of either fled Cuba. They're, I'm missing the word for that, but Cuban dissidents, that they were going to go back in and kind of do a revolution to oust Castro. And all he had to do was like sign on the dotted line, and Castro would be out. And then they're like, oh, wait, but we need to provide air support. He's like, well, then that's an act of war. I don't really want to do that. And the whole thing was a disaster and a failure. And he felt like he was set up by the CIA, like doing this mission that they had kind of outlined under the previous administration under Eisenhower. And he comes in and just was kind of handed to him, and it like fucked up his whole first year in office.
So he had an axe to grind in a sense?
He had an axe to grind with them. He didn't trust them. There were all, and then he found out about, like we were talking about before, that the CIA was working heavily with all types of assassination plots to get Castro, working with the mafia, working with, Cuban exiles was the word I was looking for before, trying to find ways to kill him. And Kennedy learned of that, and like it was going on without his direct knowledge or his direction. Like, he wasn't saying like, go kill Castro. It was just like something the CIA was, they're almost like a rogue agency inside of the government.
So is that Northwoods? Is that
Operation Northwoods, we did talk about that as well. There's all these different various plots to kill Castro, and this Operation Mongoose was another one inside of that. But the CIA was operating, effectively without direction from Kennedy.
Okay, so I do want to get to what you've kind of found here, but before we get to that really quick, I want to talk about J.P. Graziano's.
Love J.P. Graziano.
Right. So it's holiday season.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be open up until Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Yep. So if you have anything, if you have a holiday party, work catering, like I said yesterday, a Friendsgiving, make sure you go check them out. 901 West Randolph. Go in store. Go to jpgraziano.com. Put in your order now. I mean, there's no reason to wait. Just get it in. The antipasta trays are great.
I've heard the antipasta trays are great. And Ed, I feel bad for you because we ordered a catering from JP Graziano's last week when Pete was in here doing our office as a kind of a joke. And so we all sat around for, an hour eating this platter of sandwiches. I mean, I couldn't have been happier with that decision. You just can't beat the bread. The sandwiches are amazing. We sent Pete home with a bottle of Jardiniere because they do that better than anybody too. I've been grilling up sausages all weekend. I got some Italian sausages, putting the Jardiniere in there. So definitely check out those platters. You'll be the most popular guy at your friends.
Yeah, and it's for any size guys either. There's no size too big, so make sure you hit them up. 901 West Randolph. Go to jpgraziano.com. Get your order now. They're taking it all the way up to early December, so don't think anything's too early the holiday season. Better do it early than late. So yeah, make sure you go check them out. So the CIA though, what piques your interest here though? Are you buying this at all? Like, what have you found?
Yeah, it's almost like where there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing, and then also like doth protest too much. Like, why is the CIA insisting on, even all these years later, or almost 60 years later, still saying like they don't want some of the documents released. It's them and the FBI. There's, they released 2,800 documents in 2017, and they were supposed to release all of them, and they redacted over 15,000 documents.
Ooh.
So it's a big number. It's like, what are you guys hiding? If it's so long ago, you'd think that it must be so incriminating that they're just still, it's like too toxic to release.
And was there a chance that Harvey Oswald was in the CIA, or?
Yes. So that I want to start with this guy named Morrow. So Morrow was an ex-CIA agent, like a contract agent, and he has told on the record that he purchased and customized rifles that were eventually used in the JFK assassination plot.
Okay.
So right off the bat, he's spoken about this pretty publicly. Now, he was not, quote unquote, in the CIA. He was a contract agent, but he had done this for the CIA before. He has said on record that he assumed that the rifles were going to be used in a plot against Latin American officials, because at that time communism was spreading. So starting in Cuba, there was revolutions going on all over the place, civil unrest everywhere. The CIA was literally everywhere doing these black operations, trying to keep the communists out of the Western Hemisphere. And he had done this before, where he bought these rifles, and I think I said his name. His name is Morrow, and then he saw the famous photo of Lee Harvey Oswald with the rifle, and then the Dallas police holding up the rifle. He's like, holy shit, I recognize that rifle. I made that rifle. I bought that rifle. And he said that he had heard of a plot to kill JFK 2 weeks beforehand, and he just dismissed it because who's going to kill the president?
Yeah.
And then when all this stuff started coming up, and then JFK got killed, and he sees the photos, he calls his case officer, and his case officer with his handler with the CIA just told him to shut up about it and don't say anything. So oh shit, okay, that's a big one. And he knew the name Oswald as well. So he assumed that Oswald was this low level CIA guy, and maybe he was, but the fact that this guy Morrow, who's just a contract agent, is on the record saying that yeah, I knew who Oswald was before the world did, kind of fucking crazy.
That is really crazy. That I mean, first it's crazy that he heard rumblings, right?
Yeah.
That he was like, oh no, this is but there's no way that's true. Who would believe that exactly?
Who would believe? Yeah, this very popular sitting president, the handsome guy going around giving speeches. Who could ever believe that someone would, in the U.S. government, would attempt an assassination against the president?
Then what happens after that? I mean, Morrow, is he...
Yeah, well, it kind of points to the finger back at Oswald, right? So Oswald is involved. Why does the CIA know about Oswald? Why is he hearing his name 2 weeks before the assassination? And, Oswald, if you guys don't know, he was a former Marine sharpshooter. So, he's trained in, doing these rifle shots from, basically capable of using a rifle for assassination. Okay.
No, didn't know that. Didn't know Wilkes Booth was a famous actor either. So
yeah.
2 fun facts by the assassinees. That's not a word.
I got another one for you.
What's that?
Did you know that Lee Harvey Oswald, after he got out of the Marines, defected to Russia and lived in Russia?
Nope.
Okay. Height of the Cold War, this guy goes to Russia. Now, back then, once you defect and you go to Russia and you swear in as a Russian, you can't come back to the United States. You just can't do it. Guess what? Obviously, Oswald comes back, brings a Russian wife with him. So not only could he get his passport reinstated, he was able to get one for his wife. How does that happen unless you have high level assistance from people in the government?
It's a good point.
Pretty crazy.
Good point. Okay?
Did you know that he went to Mexico City and met with the KGB at the Cuban consulate in Mexico City? Right before the assassination?
No, you mentioned these to me in passing. You might have teased at them at the last JFK one, but I didn't know. We haven't gone in depth on this.
So he made it to Mexico City allegedly, and was meeting with people who were in charge of assassinations for the KGB, and was asking if they had been able to facilitate a passport and a visa back to the United States. So they this is part of that documents dump where they knew who Oswald contacted, they knew what was discussed. Oswald, even though he couldn't really speak Russian that well, insisted on having the conversation in Russian, and then somehow a few weeks later he's back in the United States. So he leaves the country. They know the government knows he's in Cuba, or in the Cuban consulate in Mexico City, and like the government's tracking him, and he still gets back, and it's just like, whatever, come on back.
Oh, wow.
Kind of crazy. They got another tip-off on November 16th, 1963, again, per these document dump in 2017, that the government knew, the CIA knew Oswald was in Dallas. So they knew he was there. They also changed the parade route. Okay, there's different theories on who did it. So some people say the Secret Service changed the parade route. Some people say that was a directive from the CIA to the Secret Service. But they had a parade route that allowed them to slow down and make the shot easier, where they have all these open buildings, and there were people that you would be able to like take a realistic attempt at the president if he's going 12 miles an hour versus if he's flying down like a main drag going 30. So again, like kind of crazy.
That is. I mean, that's seemingly someone kept letting him back in.
Someone kept letting him back in.
But then for him to be on some type of list where like they knew where he was, they were clearly still watching him.
Right, and maybe directing him. Huh. Yeah. So Oswald, that's kind of a crazy thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Furthermore, there's been all kinds of reports that people were getting tipped off all around the world that Kennedy had been killed, and that Oswald, like before he was killed. Okay. So there is a British newspaper and British intelligence received wires that Kennedy had been shot and killed 25 minutes before he was shot. So that, like, someone got an anonymous tip as a reporter. He went to check the wires, and there was nothing there. So he reported it to MI6, and then bang, Kennedy gets killed. So that was part of this documents dump as well. And then the MI6, like that's the CIA counterpart, like James Bond shit. They sent that back to the FBI and the CIA, being like, hey, like someone tipped us off on this, and then that was never really pursued.
Wow.
So again, fucking crazy.
A lot of shady stuff going on.
Shady stuff. Then again, same thing. This has been investigated by all kinds of people forever. There was a particular questioning of this guy named Helms, who was the former deputy director of plans, and he was asked on the record if Oswald was part of the CIA. So this is like, you can read this in like a photocopied document that was released. It's like a PDF file. And he goes on to say, like, he breaks down the whole thing, and then it like cuts off where his answer would be like yes or no, he was in it. So like that, like, so they're going through Oswald and like how the CIA knew of him. And it's like point blank, was he in the CIA? Was he a contract agent? Would he have known anything? Did you guys know about his, they asked him like this series of questions, and then you would think you flip the page and it's like, well, there's this guy's answer. Whether he confirms it or not, his whole answer is just gone, redacted.
Ooh.
So that's where it's like it doth protest too much situation.
Redacted.
Oh, okay.
Fuck.
So then, because of like everybody was anticipating this documents dump, and Trump was like, he really wanted all the documents out there. And then the CIA, like we said, they had held back 15,000 documents. When asked about it, Trump said, I had no choice but to let the federal agencies withhold these, thousands of documents. So you're the president of the United States, and you're being told that you have no choice by the FBI and the CIA, who Trump doesn't exactly have a great relationship with to begin with. Kind of crazy that even he would say, hey, like, I had no choice in the matter. I had to, withhold these. And then they have delayed it 3 years. So supposedly, like, the full amount is going to come out 3 years from now, but who knows if that, or a year from now, because this was 2 years ago.
Wow. So this is like, we're about to get some big news possibly in a year or so, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it's, and you have like, and it just keeps going on and on. I mean, I don't know, like.
And what I keep going back to, what you said at the beginning, was someone who's, I forgot what you said his name was, but he's studied this case pretty strongly, and he can't shoot this rumor down.
Can't shoot it down. And then there was a former CIA station chief, and he was asked, like, if it was the CIA, who do you think would have done it? And he goes, well, it was, probably the office out of Miami, because you need people who are rogue to kind of take out their own government. And that was people with a lot of Cuban exiles who hated Kennedy. Those were the people who were doing Operation Northwoods. Those were the people who were completely like defunded by Kennedy for their Operation Mongoose, where they're running guns and training in all these different places in Florida. That Kennedy was like, he learned about it and was like, all right, we'll shoot that shit down. We're not going to have another Bay of Pigs. Like, that's over with. So they hated him. And the one guy's name, his name was Jacob Esterline. He died in 1999, but like he had links to Oswald and had links to Jack Ruby, who killed Oswald in prison, like that famous, on live television. So It's kind of crazy. And then it's like you're investigating it, and you find out in another document something, J. Edgar Hoover, right?
Yeah.
Okay. He, former head of the FBI, also hated Kennedy. He had a quote in this document dump saying, "The thing I'm concerned about is having something issued so we can convince the public that Oswald is the real assassin." That was a direct quote in a memo from J. Edgar Hoover. So
Holy
implying
shit.
that there might be, somebody else might have actually been the real assassin.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, so we're going to find out if this is one of the biggest inside jobs in American history, right?
I mean, it could very well be. And it was right from, another guy who was in charge of like the Warren Commission, the original investigation, Allen Dulles. Allen Dulles hated Kennedy, yet he's on
A lot of people hated Kennedy, huh?
in this intelligence community, yeah.
Yeah.
And he hated Kennedy and was like vice chair of the Warren Commission, who was in charge of investigating the assassination. So, we didn't find anything. Oh, weird. Is it because you were head of the CIA and Kennedy fired you?
Holy
weird.
shit.
Okay. So it's like, it just seems like it was a setup from the word go if you go down this rabbit hole enough.
This is a good one, man.
Yeah.
This is, and what I liked most about this one is, like I said, we're going to find out in about a year.
Hopefully, unless, Trump loses the election, right? And then someone else gets in office and punts it, or Trump says, hey, my hands are tied again. I can't release it.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Holy shit.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah.
I mean, this is,
this is the big kahuna conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
probably the biggest one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
JFK, for sure.
So a lot of different angles on this one.
Yeah. All right, Chief. Thanks for kind of breaking it down. Did the CIA kill John F. Kennedy?
Bang, bang.
Bang, bang. We will catch you tomorrow, everybody.